awesome SES family, and welcome back to the best school year ever. Welcome to the Education Today talk show. I am Angela Whitelaw, and I'm so excited to have everyone back. I applaud all of you for having the tenacity to never stop learning. Your passion for the work is what will propel us to new heights. I just want to share a couple of things with you on today. First, I want to say hats off for practice 1. So for practice 1, we have 80% of our teachers on track. So hats off to you. For practice 2, we're at 73.6%. So again, we want to keep propelling, we want to keep moving. And for our third practice, we're at 69.6. So again, we have a lot of work to do with graduate release, but just wait. We're going to have examples for you on the next show. So again, keep working. Hats off. We're on our way. Today, I'm excited because we have with us 3 IODs, and they're going to share how they have propelled the instructional practices into classrooms in their zones. Today, we have Sharonda Beard from Zone 4. Sharonda was the former principal of Balmoral Ridgeway Elementary. Hats off to you, Sharonda.
Thank you, thank you.
Now we have Corey Williams, the IOD for Zone 11. Let me tell you a little bit about Corey. He is the former principal from Ridgeway Middle. So again, hats off to the Road Runners.
That's right.
Yes.
And finally, we have Miss Melissa Coleman. She was the former AP at the famous Whitehaven High School. Now she's the director for E-Zone, Zone 14. Again, I want to thank all of you all for being here today to share information about instructional practices. So we'll get started with Sharonda. IOD Beard. According to the district's data, your zone is implementing and monitoring the instructional practices with fidelity. What supports did you put in place to make this happen?
First and foremost, I want to say thank you for having me, Dr. Whitelaw. This is an exciting time as we are transitioning into really honing in on instructional practices. But most importantly, for Zone 4, we began with the why. I think that's just something that has just been embedded in our district, making sure that all teachers and students, as well as leaders, know why we are doing this work. And I always take an opportunity to live in that space whenever I'm moving and coaching and supporting principals as well as teachers, starting with the why. And then also knowing and understanding the capacity of who I'm working with. And I do that during PLC meetings. I sit in, I listen to the feedback that instructional leaders within each school give to teachers, and it helps me provide a lens to the additional support that I need to give. So whenever I am in those PLC meetings, I am giving some real-time feedback. I utilize the instructional practice walkthrough tool to guide me in my direction. I also sit and work with my ISAs, because as we move into PLC meetings and admin meetings, as well as IoT meetings, we then begin to not only look at Zoho trends, but we listen to the trends that we see that's on the ground, right? Because everybody is different, everybody is needing something different, and so we try to carve out professional development, whether it is before school, after school, virtual, in person, in any time that we need to go into the school building, just working one-on-one with a principal, we kind of cater to that as well. So I think most importantly, looking at the instructional practice walkthrough tool, making sure that I have a good grasp of what I'm hearing inside of those PLC meetings to ensure that the instructional leaders are providing the right directions for all of those instructional practices.
Hats off, Ms. Beard.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. You are using your instructional support advisors to help you identify trends, and then you all are easing into those classrooms, into those schools, and supporting teachers.
Yes.
And to that, I thank you.
Thank you.
Let's move on to IOD Corey Williams. What type of zone supports have you provided to build the capacity of principals regarding the implementation of instructional practices 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Thank you, Dr. Whitelaw, for asking me that question. When we think about building capacity, A1, one of the things that we do at Zone 11, everything that we do starts with the beginning of our newsletter. We use that resource as a way to provide supports as well as resources to school leaders. We were very systematic in our approach of supporting our leaders. It began with a questionnaire to assess their progress for implementation, and then from that we took the district's timeline for implementation. Based on the timeline, we also created as a zone our own timeline for a full zone walkthrough. And so, for example, practice 1 expectation was to be completed and delivered to staff by October 1st. October 5th, we were doing a zone walkthrough to ensure that we were able to see school trends. And we challenged our school leadership teams to do those walkthroughs and provide us with the feedback so we can see what supports they needed as it aligned with what they put in the questionnaire. From that, we utilized our instructional support advisors to provide them with supports around exemplar videos, resources they could use. All of those things kind of help support those leaders, but we wanted to really dig deeper into the support by working with their administrative leads. We know when we think about our instructional leadership teams, they also support our school leaders in getting the work done. And so by utilizing them, training them, making sure that we're meeting with them on a weekly basis, making sure that our ISAs are coaching them around the videos that they're using, but then also making sure that the leaders are aware of what they are doing and how that support is going to transition over to what's done in the classroom for teachers. We were able to really see how progress was being made for each practice. And so that process carried us throughout the year. In addition to that, we wanted to make sure that we aligned everything that they did in the classroom with what we saw when we came in and did our own walkthroughs. So we began also doing SWOT analysis to align with what they said that we were seeing, and having meetings with our leaders to ensure that those things that they said they were seeing were also things that we were seeing. And from the SWOTs, we provided next steps for each school based on their needs to support them in implementation.
Thank you again, ILD Williams, for sharing all of that information. I want to echo something that you said, and I want to give a great big shout out to your team because your newsletter is awesome. So I'm going to encourage your entire zone, all the teachers in your zone, to look at that newsletter, and I want them to share it across the district because the videos, all of your quotes, again, you all are doing an awesome job.
Thank you.
Now I'll turn to you, Ms. Coleman, and I want to ask you 2 questions wrapped up. What instructional practices or practice is showing the least amount of implementation in your zone? And then I want you to share with me and explain why. But again, I want you to share what have you done to increase leaders' understanding of the instructional practices. Ms. Coleman?
All right. While feedback showed all 4 instructional practices presented challenges, we found that instructional practice number 3, gradual release of responsibility, exhibited the least amount of implementation. We noticed that teachers were doing the heavy lifting, meaning their focus is on explaining, which in most cases turned into lecturing. Observations have shown that teachers are applying the I do and we do aspect of instructional practice number 3, but they are struggling, especially in this virtual platform, with the you do alone or we do together or in pairs. Our goal in each feedback session is to focus on planning. When you have a cohesive lesson plan, a teacher is able to maximize instructional time. We truly believe that once we return to in-person learning, implementation of instructional practice number 3 will improve. In the meantime, schools have provided professional development on instructional practice number 3, focusing on engagement strategies. During faculty meetings, collaborative content meetings, PLC meetings, and on the district in-service days. Some of those strategies were how to engage students using Nearpod, Microsoft Forms, and PowerPoint Live. I think our most successful practice, however, has been arranging for peer observations. This practice allowed struggling teachers to see the theory of instructional practice number 3 in action. And it also promoted collaboration within our schools.
I agree with you that you learn from your peers. That is the most essential part of teaching, that I see what my peers are doing. Then I go back and steal a couple of strategies and then implement them in my own classroom. So again, thank you. Ms. Beard, how are you and your school leaders offering differentiated support to teachers? Can you just talk to us about that?
Sure. So when we move into the buildings of Zone 4, the school buildings of Zone 4, we're very cognizant of the fact that one game has to be played differently, so to say. And so when I move into those buildings and I'm thinking about differentiated support for those leaders, I begin with a survey. And this is a space right now, and I think ILD Williams made it very clear with, he started talking about a questionnaire. But during this particular time, during the month of February and March, we wanted to know, we've gone over instructional practices. Now, what is it that you need? What is it that you really need with those different instructional practices? Because I think they have a good theory and understanding of what they are, but now let's begin to peel back the onion, so to say that there are different facets in each of those instructional practices. So when you're talking about instructional practice 1 and the PBO, what exactly do you need with that? When you move into instructional practice 3, like Melissa said, that's really, it's really loaded. And so is it small group instruction? Is it the I do? Is it modeling or teacher exemplars? What is it that you want us to do as we move into this space, as opposed to just throwing everything out, going over the practices over and over, being very rote with that? Let's really hear from our leaders. But ISAs also send it to the leaders, the school leaders, the teacher leaders in the building. So I was able to hear from the principals as well as the leaders to see if they even said the same thing, right? Because if you're in the same building, you should be able to, and you're doing walkthroughs, you should be able to really kind of pull from and leverage what you need and have one voice. So we were able to do that and to codify that, and then also saying, okay, now this is what this particular school needs. Let me craft my calendar. Let me craft the number of times that I'm going into this particular school, so that therefore I've tiered their support, providing bi-weekly or every week type of PD, one-on-one coaching, based upon the needs that they have stated that we need to give. Of course, there are some outliers where I'm like, hey, I'm coming anyway. I'm going to make sure that I'm there supporting you on a more consistent basis. But I'd have to hear from the leaders in the school, but also the teachers, the teacher leaders, so they can say, hey, I still need some support here. My capacity is not where I think it should be, or I think it is. How can you get your ISAs to come and help me with maybe this grade band, with this one particular teacher? So that's one of the ways that we ensure that we are really and truly differentiating the support for the teachers, for the leaders in Zone 4, and also that peer-to-peer interaction. Hey, take some time to go and look to see what another principal is doing. You've got some really strong admin meetings where teacher leaders are really carving out what they see every week. And so if you've got a team of admin leaders that are not doing that, I push them into those real strong admin meetings so they can hear how people are talking about the work and utilizing the instructional practices, making sure that they're giving feedback as needed.
Thank you, ILD Beard.
Sure.
Now, Corey and Melissa, I'm going to give you 3 words that are related to our district work regarding the instructional practices. Please react to each word through your lens as an ILD. First word, let's start with the first one, buy-in. The second word, cadence. And the third word, ownership. So let's start there. I'll hear from you, Ms. Coleman.
Okay, buy-in, it's essential. You have to have buy-in in order for implementation to occur. Cadence, first thing that comes to mind is that we're moving slow so we can eventually go fast. So right now we're trying to be intentional. And ownership. I kind of think ownership and buy-in go together. So the principals have to have the ownership first. Once they have established ownership, they'll pass it on to their teachers to make sure that the teachers are implementing the information correctly. And then they are responsible, they being the teachers, are responsible for ensuring that the students understand and that they can eventually see their achievement.
Awesome. IOD Williams.
So when I think of the term buy-in, I oftentimes don't use that term, but more so lean towards making sure that everyone understands that they are a value add to the bottom line of the organization. Because our students don't have time for us to opt in. They have to be present and know that we're here for them and willing to do whatever we can to support them in this work. When I think about cadence, I think about follow-up, feedback, modeling, making sure that you're providing opportunities for people to show you what they can and cannot do. And this is a system, this is a cycle that's continuous and ongoing, not just a one-time deal, but something that you're oftentimes going back to see if this is working. Is my impact better than my intent? And then also when I think about ownership, I think when everyone is accountable for the work, I think when it starts with leaders, when it starts with them recognizing their value and what they're supposed to do to support the school, their level of accountability also feeds over to how they hold others accountable in the building. That's their leadership team. When the leadership team is aware of their accountability measures and what they need to do to support the bottom line of the school, then the ILT understands their ownership and their ability to be accountable for the work. And so as you think about the leader, the admin team, and then the ILT team all recognizing and taking ownership in their accountability for their work, I think that then supports moving the school and the district forward.
Great information. Melissa, what I heard from you, we have to go slow to go fast. From you, Corey, what I'm going to remember is opt-in, not buy-in, because we're in it for all of our students. Thank you, IOD Sharonda Beard, IOD Melissa Coleman, IOD Corey Williams, for being on the show today and speaking to us about how this hard work is making a difference within this district. So again, I say thank you.
I'm the principal at Southwest Korean Technology Center. As a school leader, I am mindful that I'm a leader of people. So if a child is not, let's say, doing their very best, once the teacher announced to them that today is Magnificent Monday, well then that should liven them up, and the teacher is positive, then the child will also be positive as well. It's about the attitude, the spirit of being positive each and every day with the children. Magnificent Monday, a terrific Tuesday, wonderful Wednesday, tremendous Thursday, and fantastic Friday. So when I go to the classroom, I ask the children, how are they doing? On any particular day, they're going to give me the word associated with that day, then that in turn liven them up and lift their spirit in a positive manner, then that's what we try to do each and every day. Collegiality is real easy because we connect. This is my 9th year and we interact with one another very, very easily. I respect teachers to the utmost and make absolutely sure that we are on task. Now, but at the same time, and I do realize I'm the principal, I'm the leader within the school, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that I need to have a bad attitude or reprimand somebody just because I'm the principal. If that respect is there, the collaboration piece is going to be very easy because you're going to have thought partners, but you sustained it by empowerment. You got to have a listening ear because the teacher is crying out to you, or it could be vice versa. The child is giving you some information, but you got to stop, listen, and have that listening ear for the child so that you can, let's say, prevent a problem. We are a non-toxic work environment. We have a great time. We support teachers. I spoke of camaraderie, support, respect, and all of that. We outline the expectations. As a leader, I lead by example, but I don't criticize, I don't reprimand, and all of that. And I think that's the supporting piece. And like I say, we have a great time doing this. And it's a real calm and relaxed environment, but at the same time, we get things done.
And hello, Shelby County Public Schools. Thank you for the opportunity to be a part of your Education Today broadcast. So my responsibility here today is to talk to you about the progress that has been made regarding the implementation of the district-wide instructional practices. So out of all of the 10,000 plus observations that have been informal observations that have been conducted by teacher leaders, assistant principals, central office personnel, senior staff, and myself, here's what we found. About 80% of all classrooms in Shelby County Public Schools, and this was happening virtually during a global pandemic, 80% of all classrooms in Memphis had objectives that were performance-based in nature. We can't lose the fact that this happened virtually, that the professional development that you received as teachers, teacher leaders, and administrators, that has had that profound of an impact on what children are receiving each day. So what does this mean in layman's terms? About 80% of the classrooms in Memphis, children are met with a learning target comprised of developmentally appropriate academic language that gives them a roadmap for daily instruction. One part content and one part the high order thinking that they're going to do with their new content knowledge. This is no small task. Congratulations to you, Memphis. Now, secondly, according to the data that we've collected, about 74% of all classrooms in Memphis are classrooms where teachers are taking advantage of curriculum-driven opportunities to give children access to the academic language that lives inside of the objective, but that also lives inside of the standard or the standards. Now, what does that mean? Children demonstrate at the end of a grade or at the end of a course what they have learned. But in order to be able to demonstrate what they've learned, they must possess conceptual understanding of the academic language that they will encounter both when they read and when they are assessed. And in Memphis, 74% of all classrooms are setting children up for success. Kudos to you, Memphis. Now, let me be clear on this. It only takes a few minutes of our time. We should only spend a few minutes of our time making sure that children are oriented to the academic language. So if the objective says that students are going to be identifying key details in order to determine main idea, this is about not spending an inordinate amount of time, not an excessive amount of time, but just a few minutes, making sure that kids understand that identify means to recognize a name, and key details are important words or phrases that are connected to the main idea. And to determine the main idea means to figure it out. And the main idea is what the text is mostly about. That should only take us a few minutes of our time. Okay, and you're doing that well. Now, third, but not least, about 70% of all classrooms in Memphis are presenting children with opportunities to learn through the gradual release of responsibility. Now, what does that mean? This means that someone's modeling for children exactly what's in the expectation resident in the standard. And then adults are giving children an opportunity to turn around and model for them to show how effective the model was for them as a learner. And what does this mean? That children are also being given an opportunity to work in pairs, to demonstrate consistent mastery of the expectation of the objective and of the standard, followed by an opportunity for them to work independently. Y'all, gradual release of responsibility is going to help our kids to become independent thinkers, readers, writers, and problem solvers. Now, as it relates to science, practice number 3 is about making sure that children are exposed to instruction that gives them an opportunity to be engaged in a study of the scientific concept that's under study, then to explore it through an inquiry-based approach to learning, then to have an explanation of that scientific concept that's under study, followed by an extension activity, what we call an elaboration activity, followed by an assessment or an evaluation opportunity that's informal in nature, but that gives children opportunity to demonstrate that they've been taught and to reflect on what they have learned. And so with that being said, I'd like to say again, we accomplished this, Memphis, during a global pandemic virtually. And that is no small task. So congratulations to you on all the work that you have done, school leaders, teachers, paraprofessionals, to ensure that children have unfettered access to instruction of the highest quality. And thank you again for allowing me to be one of your thought partners. Thank you, Dr. Whitelaw. Back to you in the studio.
Over the last several months, life as we know it has changed. We wear masks and keep distance from one another to protect us against a viral enemy that has robbed our community and others around the world of mothers and fathers, sisters and brothers, neighbors and friends. However, my faith, my commitment, and my dedication to SES has never been stronger. In the face of the pandemic, it is time to lead through the moment and speak life into this otherwise bleak time. As I continue to reflect on the last 6 months, I want to personally thank each of you for your patience and grace. You helped your students bring closure to an interrupted school year. You reached out to your community in service. And you reached out to me and other administrators with compassion. Neither I nor our community will never forget your gifts of grace. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Education Today.